The AT-AT, or All-Terrain Armored Transport, is a well-known symbol of the Galactic Empire. Ever since their first appearance in The Empire Strikes Back, these colossal metal monsters have become iconic, at once fascinating and terrifying for casual viewers and devoted fans alike. But though the AT-AT was most well known as an Imperial war machine, it actually debuted during the Clone Wars. Its appearances on Clone Wars battlefields were few, and many Star Wars fans aren't aware of them, but they were actually a significant step in the progression from the Republic to the Empire, and in this video, we'll be explaining why.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
From the very beginning of the Clone Wars, the Grand Army of the Republic relied heavily on armored walkers, mostly of the all-terrain line. This iconic line of walkers, produced by Kuat Drive Yards and its subsidiary, Rathana Heavy Engineering, most notably included the AT-TE. The AT-TE was the backbone of Republic ground forces for the duration of the Clone Wars, making its presence known from the First Battle of Geonosis to the Battle of Utapau. It wasn't perfect, but it was highly successful, driving KDY to expand the AT line. Early in the Clone Wars, most of KDY's new walkers were lighter vehicles meant to complement the AT-TE, such as the AT-RT and AT-XT. But as the war went on and the AT-TE's weaknesses became more apparent, KDY began putting out alternative heavy walkers to diversify the Republic's armored vehicle selection. The largest of these walkers were designed specifically to address one of the AT-TE's biggest shortcomings. Its short legs meant that if the walker stepped on a mine, the blast would severely damage the AT-TE's vulnerable underside. To correct this, KDY put out two new heavy walkers with much longer legs. First the AT-HE and then the AT-AT. Clone Wars era AT-ATs were a bit different from their Imperial era counterparts, but the basic design was the same. The walker stood more than 22 meters high on four huge, heavily armored legs that, on flat terrain, could propel the AT-AT forward at speeds up to 60 kilometers per hour. Atop these legs was the main cabin, which could carry up to 4 speeder bikes, up to 40 troops, and an assortment of heavy anti-infantry weaponry. The walker's cockpit and command center were located in its head, which also featured the AT-AT's weapons, 2 chin-mounted heavy laser cannons, and 2 anti-personnel medium repeating blasters. The first generation walkers used during the Clone Wars were much blockier than their Imperial counterparts, with rectangular and rather inelegant main cabins and head sections. Additionally, the armor of these early AT-ATs appears to have been lighter or less comprehensive than those of Imperial walkers, which were notoriously difficult to seriously damage. The specs of the first-gen AT-ATs might have been different in other ways as well, especially considering the larger and presumably roomier main cabin, but there aren't any sources indicating that that was actually the case. KDY unveiled the AT-AT during the first half of the Clone Wars, and at first, it seemed like the new walker couldn't have come at a better time. This wasn't long after General Grievous took command of the CIS droid army, and the tides of the war favored the Separatists. A new, powerful war machine was just what the Republic needed, so the Walker's prototypes were assigned to a detachment of the 3rd Systems Army on Handoween, which was preparing to invade the recently seceded planet Jabim. Jabim was a little-known, mud-covered mining world buffeted by constant rainstorms, a really terrible place to live, all things considered. After it was discovered to be rich in valuable ores, the Republic attempted to nationalize the planet's mines, only for a populist faction to overthrow the planet's loyalist government and pledge to join the CIS. The Republic responded by sending a huge invasion army under newly appointed High General Obi-Wan Kenobi, intending to reinstall what was left of the loyalist government and retake Jabim's mines. The invasion force included nearly 30 Jedi, over 10,000 clone troopers, and a buttload of heavy walkers, including AT-XTs, AT-TEs, and of course, the new AT-ATs. Republic strategists were confident that the Jabimi nationalists didn't stand a chance. For the first 2 weeks of the Battle of Jabim, the AT-ATs did their job well. They led Republic attack forces in capturing a dozen major separatist positions in rapid succession, and the relatively poorly armed Jabimi fighters could do little to bring the gargantuan walkers down. The only obstacle the AT-ATs faced was Jabim itself. The Republic's walkers often got mired in the planet's muddy terrain, which greatly hindered their progress. Nonetheless, Republic forces quickly spread deep into separatist territory, in large part because of the AT-ATs. However, these early Republic victories were actually part of an elaborate trap. The Nationalists had been stringing Republic forces out, allowing them to get overconfident and overextend themselves. Then, when the Third Army was suitably spread out, the Jabimi attacked the Republic's main command base, leading newly arrived droid armies into battle against the Third Army's rear guard. During the attack, Jabimi commandos were able to take out several AT-ATs by skimming over the mud with repulsor boots and sticking explosives onto the walkers' legs. General Kenobi was inside one of the walkers they managed to destroy this way, and he was presumed killed when the AT-AT exploded. From there, the Battle of Jabim went rapidly downhill for the Republic. One by one, separatist forces cut off and destroyed the various detachments of the Third Army, flanking their walkers and destroying them with mines and other traps hidden in the mud. By the time the Republic was finally forced to abandon Jabim, not a single AT-AT was left. All of them had fallen victim to a mix of the planet's hostile conditions and the agility of its natives. On Jabim, the Republic learned a bitter lesson. War machines alone were not enough to stop the rising separatist tide, no matter how powerful they were. Perhaps understandably, the Republic seemingly didn't use AT-ATs all that much after Jabim. It's possible that KDY took them back to the drawing board for a short while. The walkers didn't return to widespread use until the very end of the war, during the Outer Rim sieges and the Republic's final campaigns against the separatist strongholds in the core worlds. In many of those bloody final battles, AT-ATs once more loomed above the battlefields, and this time they were much more effective in crushing separatist resistance, sometimes literally. Most notably, AT-ATs participated in the Battle of Nemoidia, in which Republic forces used them to crush the Nemoidian Home Defense Legion and destroy several Nemoidian grub hatcheries, dealing a severe blow to the entire Nemoidian species. Apart from these select examples, AT-ATs weren't terribly common during the Clone Wars, and after the war's end, they didn't even become widespread in the Imperial Army until the start of the Galactic Civil War. But their use by the Republic was actually much more significant than might first be apparent. That's because the AT-AT was designed to serve a dual purpose. Obviously, it was meant to serve as a heavy armored vehicle, but it was also a psychological weapon designed to instill terror in the enemy. This was a tactic that the Galactic Empire loved to use, and for good reason. As Grand Moff Tarkin put it, "The average citizen has no grasp of numbers nor a head for calculation. I maintain that the effectiveness of the Star Destroyer stems not only from its massive firepower, but from its size. When citizens look at a Star Destroyer and then compare it to the craft which might be mustered to attack it, they have a tendency to dismiss such a notion as suicidal rather than approach the problem tactically. This natural state can be exploited to a far greater degree as the average citizen deals in symbols, not rational analysis." Like the Imperial Star Destroyer and later the Death Star, the AT-AT was explicitly designed according to this principle. It was for that reason that the New Republic categorically refused to use captured AT-ATs after overthrowing the Empire, deeming these sorts of terror tactics to be unbecoming of a respectable military and based in a fundamentally tyrannical mindset. But the Old Republic had no such reservations. Not even the Jedi who ordered the use of these walkers on Jabim stopped to consider the implications of these sorts of terror tactics. On Jabim, the Republic responded to the locals' unwillingness to surrender their only valuable export for free with uncompromising violence. The Republic came to Jabim to suppress, not to liberate. Indeed, Clone Officer Alpha 17 even called for the systematic slaughter of all separatist-aligned Jabimi government officials to force the planet back under Republic control. The AT-AT was a fitting symbol of the Republic's impure motives and unpleasant intentions. It was a fitting symbol for what the Republic had become. Even early in the Clone Wars, the Republic had become an empire. In fact, if not in name, using weapons of terror to crush poorly armed rebellions on the galactic fringe. But that's just our take on the matter. What do you think? Do you think we're reading too much into this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.